Hello there, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome. I hope you will enjoy the video currently showing, and please leave your comments below after viewing. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe to my channel, for there will be more videos to come. And thank you for your interest. Welcome to Blanchland in Northumberland. The village of Blanchland in Northumberland. Beneath a woodland cloak, in a fairy tale setting amongst the fells, sits the storybook, the small village of Blanchland. Built from the stones of Blanchland Abbey in 1165, it seemingly hasn't changed since, and murmurings of its fascinating history echo in the moors. Step back in time in Blanchland, the postcard perfect, honey stone village with the rightful reputation as one of the prettiest villages in the north of England. Stones, cobbles, hanging baskets, and winding lanes are everywhere in Blanchland, and there isn't a modern-day chain store in sight. The village owes its name to the French canons who lived and worked in Blanchland Abbey and were distinguished by their white habits. Blanche is French for white, and so the name Blanchland was born. A local shop with an unusual, whitewashed postbox. The White Monk Tea Room, which used to be the village school. Blanchland Abbey and the magnificent Lord Crewe Arms Hotel, which was originally built as the Abbot's Lodge. Which is just some of the things that you'll find in this small village in Northumberland. The oh-so-atmospheric Lord Crewe Arms Hotel is one of the oldest hostelries in the country, dating back to the 12th century. Here, the Jacobite rebellion leader, General Tom Foster, hid behind the inn's great fireplace in 1715. Expect to find stone wall interiors, rustic wooden beams, flickering candles, and a roaring open fire when you visit for a drink, some scran, or an overnight stay. Blanchland Abbey was founded by Walter de Bolbec in 1165. Edward III visited the abbey while campaigning against the Scots in 1327. During church restoration in 1881, a marvelous system of drains devised by the monks was discovered under the chancel. At least that is what the architect thought. It is much more likely that the drains were, in fact, acoustic pits beneath the choir stalls meant to amplify the voices of monks singing. Surrounded by magnificent fells and idyllic views, Blanchland straddles the Northumberland and Durham border, in the North Pennines area of outstanding natural beauty. Blanchland Abbey Church. The remote Northumbrian village of Blanchland stands on the northern bank of the River Derwent, the county boundary between Northumberland and County Durham. The village grew up around a 12th century Premonstratensian abbey. Though the abbey is long gone, a victim of Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries, part of the abbey church lives on as the parish church of Blanchland. The transept and tower. In the floor of the transept are several medieval grave slabs, moved here from the chancel. One shows a decorated cross and probably marked the burial place of a medieval abbot. Another is almost certainly an abbot's grave slab. It is carved with a chalice, circle, and crozier. The most interesting grave slab is carved with an arrow, sword, and bugle, the symbols of an abbey forester. It bears the inscription, T.E. Egilston. In the chapel is another forester's grave, inscribed to Robert Egilston, and nearby is another abbot's grave, marked with a crozier. In the churchyard, directly beside the path, is a medieval churchyard cross. Overlooking the churchyard on the south of the rooms once occupied by Tom Forster and his sister Dorothy. In 1715, Tom Forster joined the Lord of Derwent in the First Jacobite Rebellion. The rebels were defeated at Preston and both men were taken prisoner and held captive in London. The Earl was executed for treason, but Tom was held in jail. His sister Dorothy appealed to Lord Crewe for money and aid. With his help, she travelled to London and contrived to make a key for Tom's cell door. She slipped him the key and Tom was able to escape and flee into hiding. I must admit, Blanchland Abbey is a delight. The building exudes a sense of history, and the mix of medieval and later features is fascinating. I've never before visited a church quite like it. History. Blanchland Abbey was founded in 1165 by Walter de Bolbec, with a dozen canons under an abbot. It is possible that Bolbec merely refounded an existing monastery, as there is a Romanesque capital in the garden of the neighbouring Lord Crewe Arms that appears to be older than the official foundation date for the abbey. The abbey suffered from Scottish raids in the early 14th century. On one occasion, Edward I spent the night at Blanchland Abbey as he prepared to do battle with the Scots, but he was unable to cross the River Wear due to the flooding. A few decades later, the Black Death wreaked havoc on Blanchland and left the abbey impoverished, a state from which it never recovered. By the early 16th century, there were only 8 canons, and half of them lived outside of the abbey, so they could serve as vicars to local churches. The abbey was finally suppressed in 1539. The abbey church was far too large for the inhabitants, so a small chapel was built onto the tower to serve worshippers, and the remainder of the church was simply left to decay. The abbey estates passed into private hands, and by the late 16th century, they were owned by the Forster family of Bamburgh. When the last Forster died without an heir in 1704, the estate was purchased by Nathaniel Lord Crewe, the Bishop of Durham. On his death, the estate was left to the Crewe trustees, who still administer the estate, including the village and church to this day. John Wesley. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, preached in Blanchland churchyard in 1747, and where he noted in his diary that there seems to have been a large cathedral churched by the vast walls which still remain. It was not until 5 years after Wesley's visit that Blanchland became a parish in its own right. In 1752, the Crewe trustees transformed the decaying ruins of the Abbey church into the present parish church and built a vicarage. Around 1815, the trustees established a village school on the upper floor of the north transept, though this was removed in 1854. During church restoration in 1881, a marvelous system of drains devised by the monks was discovered under the chancel. At least that is what the architect thought. It is much more likely that the drains were, in fact, acoustic pits beneath the choir stalls meant to amplify the voices of monks singing. Highlights. Blanchland Abbey Church is built on an unusual L-plan, formed from the eastern end of the medieval Abbey Church, linked to the north transept, with a tower at the northern end of the former transept. There was originally a chapel attached to the east wall of the tower. Since then it's now been pulled down. The church has a fascinating mix of medieval and Georgian features, combined with a Victorian restoration. From the tower entrance, you step down into the church interior. To the right is the former north transept, and directly ahead is the aisle, which was rebuilt in 1854. From the transept, you pass into the 17th century choir, which now forms the main body of the church. As you pass down what is now essentially the nave, you come into the oldest part of the church. The walls here are 13th century work, with a beautifully restored medieval cedille on the right. It can be hard to separate the Victorian restoration from the Georgian workmanship and the much earlier medieval masonry. Historical highlights include a very unusual cast iron royal coat of arms to James I that was made to be a fireback, also a finely carved Jacobean chairs, and a roughly carved circular Norman font. In the chancel are fragments of medieval stained glass, including a depiction of a Premonstratensian abbot at prayer. In the central window is the crucifixion and the symbols of the Passion. The Black Death in England, from 1348 to 1350. In 1347, a Genoese ship from Caffa on the Black Sea came ashore at Messina in Sicily. The crew of the ship, for the few left alive, carried with them a deadly cargo, a disease so virulent that it could kill in a matter of hours. It is thought that the disease originated in the Far East, possibly in the Gobi Desert, and was spread along major trade routes to Caffa, where Genoa had an established trading post. When it became clear that ships from the east carried the plague, Messina closed its port. The ships were forced to seek safe harbor elsewhere around the Mediterranean. But unfortunately, the disease was able to spread quickly. During the medieval period, the plague went by several names, the most common being the pestilence and the great mortality. Theories about the cause of the disease were numerous, ranging from a punishment from God to planetary alignment to evil stares. Not surprisingly, many people believed that the horrors of the Black Death signaled the apocalypse, or end of time. Others believed that the disease was a plot by Jews to poison all of the Christian world, and many Jews were killed by panic mobs. The truth: the Black Death is a bacteria-borne disease, the bacteria in question being Yersinia pestis, which was carried in the blood of wild black rats, and the fleas that lived off the rats. Normally there is no contact between these fleas and human beings, but when the rat hosts die, these fleas are forced to seek alternative hosts, like humans. Yersinia pestis. Yersinia pestis is a gram-negative, non-motile, coccobacillus bacterium without spores that is related to both Yersinia pseudotuberculosis and Yersinia enterocolitica. It is a facultative anaerobic organism that can infect humans via the oriental rat flea. The plague is a disease that affects humans and other mammals. It is caused by the bacterium called Yersinia pestis. Humans can usually get the plague after being bitten by a rodent flea that is carrying the plague bacterium, or by handling an animal infected with the plague. The plague is infamous for killing millions of people in Europe during the Middle Ages. Today, modern antibiotics are effective in treating the plague. Without prompt treatment, though, the disease can cause serious illness or even death. Presently, human plague infections continue to occur in rural areas in the western United States, but significantly more cases occur in parts of Africa and Asia. The symptoms: the plague produces several different symptoms in its victims. Bubonic, the most common form of the plague, produces fist-sized swellings, called buboes, at the site of flea bites, usually in the groin and armpits, or neck. The swellings are intensely painful, and the victims die in 2 to 6 days. The buboes are red at first, but later turn a dark purple or black. This black coloring gives the Black Death its name. Pneumonic. Pneumonic plague occurs when the infection enters the lungs, causing the victim to vomit blood. Infected pneumonic people can spread the disease through the air, by coughing, sneezing, or just breathing. In septicemic plague, the bacteria enters the person's bloodstream, causing death within a day. The speed with which the disease could kill was terrifying to inhabitants of the medieval world. The Italian author, Boccaccio, claimed that the plague victims ate lunch with their friends and supper with their ancestors in paradise or hell. Artisan Makers Market. For a maker's market with a difference, learn about the process, techniques and stories behind the fabulous artisan makers, with demonstrations including enameling, wool spinning, glass work, basketry, the alchemy of soap, plus many more. Over 20 artisan makers will be showcasing the unique handmade products in the run-up to Christmas. Shop small and buy local and support these distinctive, independent local artisan businesses. Here we have an awesome selection of makers, including British beeswax candles, vegan soap, eco-printed textiles, upcycled vintage fabrics, paintings, prints, wood art, cards, copper and enamel jewelry, glass, artisan bread and bakes, preserves, honey, basket making and so much more can be found at the Artisan Makers Market. Blanchland and Derwent Ale. The River Derwent. The river name Derwent is an ancient Celtic name, called Derwent, that means river where oaks grew. It is one of several rivers in Britain with this name, and like many of the others was often pronounced or written as Darwen or Derwent in times past. The River Derwent traditionally formed the western border between the counties of Durham and Northumberland, all the way from Blaydon to Blanchland, though several places in the northern parts of the valley, such as Rowlands Gill, are now in the borough of Gateshead. Shotley Bridge, the near neighbour of Consett, which dominates the middle section of the Derwent Valley, with Ebchester and Hamsterley to its north. However, going upstream from Allansford, to the southwest of Consett, we leave the former industrial towns behind, along the winding course of the river towards the Derwent Reservoir. Nearby, we find the tiny rural settlements of Muggleswick, Edmundbeers and Roughside. To the south is the wild watershed country of Waskerley between Weardale and Derwentdale. All of these places are on the Durham side of the Derwent, but the most delightful and most substantial place is the beautiful village of Blanchland, on the Northumberland bank of the Derwent, a mile to the west of the Derwent Reservoir. The North Pennines. Prepare to be blown away by the intense views of the North Pennines, one of the most remote and unspoilt places in England. This landscape of tumbling waterfalls and vast heather moors, where peatlands meld with ancient hay meadows, holds the double accolade of being a designated area of outstanding natural beauty. The North Pennines is the second largest designated area of outstanding natural beauty in England and is home to interesting wildlife and rugged beauty, boasting striking landscapes to take your breath away, vibrant villages to welcome you in, and sweeping moorland views of glorious English landscape. With peaceful and unspoilt vibrant natural beauty, this dramatic landscape from High Force on the River Tees to the sweeping valley of High Cup Gill, which is above Dufton, has been shaped by its unique geology and has achieved European and global geopark status. Once dotted with lead mines, this area now contains much of England's upland hay meadows and heathland, which provide a welcome haven for rare plants and animals. Animal species that are scarce in the rest of Britain thrive here, where you may see red squirrels, otters, black grouse, as well as thousands of pairs of wading birds which return every year to breed. Derwent Reservoir, covering an area of 1,000 acres, forms part of the boundary between Northumberland and County Durham. Fishing, picnicking and spectacular walks can gladly be enjoyed along the picturesque shores, and the north and south shores feature a wheelchair accessible trail, home to pretty stone-built villages, such as Blanchland and Allendale, where you can enjoy local pubs, independent shops, and traditional events here. Allendale brings in the new year with a flaming tar ball festival, where men carry barrels with fiery tar on their heads and parade through the streets at midnight. A place of peace and quiet. The North Pennines is the second largest designated area of outstanding natural beauty in England and is home to rare wildlife and rugged beauty, boasting striking landscapes to take your breath away, vibrant villages to welcome you in, and sweeping moorland views of outstanding beauty. Peaceful and unspoilt with a vibrant natural beauty, this dramatic landscape, from High Force on the River Tees to the sweeping valley of High Cup Gill, above Dufton, has been shaped by its unique geology, which has achieved European and global geopark status. Once dotted with lead mines, this area contains much of England's upland hay meadows and heathland, which provide a welcome haven for rare plants and animals. Animal species that are scarce in the rest of Britain thrive here, and you may see red squirrels, otters, and black grouse, as well as thousands of pairs of wading birds which return every year to breed. In the area of outstanding natural beauty, Derwent Reservoir, covering an area of 1,000 acres, forms part of the boundary between Northumberland and County Durham. Fishing, picnicking and spectacular walks can be enjoyed along the picturesque shores, and the north and south shores feature a wheelchair accessible trail, home to pretty stone-built villages such as Blanchland and Allendale, where you can enjoy local pubs, independent shops and traditional events here. Allendale welcomes in the new year with a flaming tar ball festival, where men carry barrels filled with blazing tar on their heads and parade through the streets at midnight. Walk the Pennine Way. Northumberland's stretch of the Pennine Way takes you from the North Pennines area of outstanding natural beauty, alongside Hadrian's Wall, through the heathery moors in the Northumberland National Park, and to the tiny village of Bellingham. Founded in 1965, the Pennine Way was the first national trail in the UK and set the trend for the walking culture we have today. The 268-mile route spans from Derbyshire to the Scottish borders, crossing some of the most spectacular upland landscapes in England and some of the most beautiful national parks and nature reserves in the UK. The Northumberland section begins in the rugged North Pennines area of outstanding natural beauty and passes Hadrian's Wall, and for 8 miles, you can walk in the footsteps of Roman soldiers and through the dramatic landscapes of Northumberland's National Park. In the quaint village of Bellingham, you can treat yourself to a cake and a nice cup of tea. And there are several walker-friendly B&Bs for you to choose from. Why not reap the rewards and the breathtaking panoramic views of Northumberland, as you will discover along the way? It can be quite hilly and remote in some places, particularly in the Cheviots, so come prepared with sturdy footwear and warm clothing. At times the route can be quite remote and isolated, so make sure you pack your provisions and are suitably prepared for the Pennine Way as a route for experienced walkers. Blanchland Geotrail Bay Bridge and Blanchland Circular. Enjoy this 3.2-mile circular trail near Recope, in County Durham. Generally considered an easy route, it takes an average of 1 hour and 25 minutes to complete. This is a popular trail for hiking, running, and walking, but you can still enjoy some solitude during quieter times of day. This trail starts in Blanchland and follows the Shildon through the grass, woodland and along country lanes, exploring the hills of the countryside. You'll pass Bay Bridge on the way, where you'll find a picnic site and a beautiful bridge to stop at. The last section along the River Derwent can get muddy. This is a beautiful area to visit and a great dog-friendly trail. There is a lovely tea room and a pub to stop at for refreshments at the end. The Blanchland Moor. This walk is certainly one of stark contrast, from the lush picturesque scenery around Blanchland to harsh rugged heather-clad moorland. From here you get a real sense of isolation, and with the scenery being so different from that found in the Cheviots, and the hill ground to the north of Hexham, with very little climbing you are treated to some exceptional views in this historic and fascinating countryside. The walk is good under the foot, but strong shoes are recommended. Explore Bellingham. Bellingham is a historic market town, and with its village charm, riverside setting and spectacular countryside, it will be a retreat to remember. B&Bs, traditional pubs and stone cottages can be found in the village, with waterfalls, trails and cycling routes just waiting to be explored. Places to stay near Blanchland. Have a timeless stay that is soaked in Northumbrian spirit at the Lord Crewe Arms, Blanchland's country hotel, or stay in surrounding towns and villages for something just a handy day trip away. Lord Crewe Arms. Nestled in the honey-stone village of Blanchland, beneath the cloak of forests and heath, stands the storybook Bolt Hole, offering the warmth of 26 bedrooms, each decorated in soothing North Pennine hues. They are ideally positioned for a relaxing northeast getaway, Soaked in Northumberland soul, this is hillside living with heart, and they're pretty sure you'll love them for it. Step back in time. Built in 1165, the Lord Crewe Arms began its life as a guesthouse to the newly formed Blanchland Abbey. The guesthouse enjoyed 400 years of self-sufficiency and kind hospitality, until the dissolution of the monasteries of England in 1539. The ownership of the building has moved from family to family, before becoming the responsibility of the Lord Crewe trustees. It was around this time that the Lord Crewe Arms sprang to life, the perfect place for lead miners to enjoy a pint after a shift. To this day, it has remained a place to eat, sleep, and most importantly enjoy. Today, the proud custodians of this magical place, thread by heritage, culture, and unflinching love of the moors. Rooms and suites. Heartful, homespun comfort, woven by the intimacy of the wilds and warmed with monastic soul. Each of the inviting rooms and suites are just what you want to relax in after a long day exploring the North Pennine moors. Swoon over the stunning scenery before you slink under soft knits, drifting off into a deep and peaceful slumber. Rest your head. With moors that shout adventure right on the doorstep, explore by walking or cycling. Before heading home to take off your boots, hang your hat, and stay a while. Food and drink. Savor delicious flavors. Smitten with seasonal simplicity and sense of place, the food and drink is a culinary collaboration between heritage and landscape. Guided by the evolutionary imagination of Emma Broom and faithful to the cultures of the North, expect heavenly patchwork feasts, dainty dishes, and the occasional fix of comfort food cooked to the highest order, of course. The Ghostly Monk. The Lord Crewe Arms Hotel itself was originally built as the Abbot's Lodge, and the gardens served as the cloisters for the monks. The Blanchland Abbey saw 4 centuries of peace, prosperity, and devotion to the service of God and others. All that came to an end in 1539, when the abbey was dissolved by King Henry VIII. The monks fled to the moors and went into hiding. They feared if they were captured, they would be imprisoned or worse. In the 1990s, an American guest staying in the Radcliffe room was awakened in the middle of the night by a peculiar sight. A monk in a white robe silently sat at the end of her bed. She reached out to touch the figure, who was quite solid. When she drew her hand back, she watched in awe as the figure simply melted into the air. When she reported the incident, she reported that the unexpected visitor wasn't scary, but rather peaceful. The Ghost of Dorothy Forster. The Lord Crewe Arms' most notable ghost is Dorothy Forster. In 1715, her brother Tom became the commander of the Jacobite forces during the uprising. Tom, who wasn't equipped to command anything, surrendered to government forces without a fight. Tom was then carted off to London and imprisoned in Newgate Prison to await trial for high treason, a trial that would certainly earn him the death penalty. 3 days before his trial, Tom's sister Dorothy staged a daring jailbreak, which led to rescuing her brother from certain death. When they returned to the Lord Crewe Arms, Tom was hidden in a priest's hole, behind the large fireplace. After a short time of hiding, Tom was smuggled into France, whilst Dorothy stayed in the Lord Crewe Arms until she eventually died. The apparition of Dorothy has been witnessed by both staff and guests in the Bamburgh room. She is said to manifest by the side of the bed, imploring to whomever is in the room to take a message to her brother in France, where she desperately wants him to know that it's now safe to return home from his exile. Her apparition is said to vanish before anyone can give her an answer. Herdman huts. The farm is situated on the border of Northumberland and County Durham, in an area of outstanding natural beauty and tranquility. Reconnect with nature and recharge your batteries. The luxury stargazing shepherd's huts are situated on the farm on the border of Northumberland and County Durham, in an area of outstanding natural beauty, overlooking the Derwent Reservoir, and within a short drive to the historical village of Blanchland. Herdman Huts allows you the chance to escape to the idyllic countryside and embrace life's simple pleasures with modern home comforts. The idyllic site is home to 2 fully self-contained shepherd's huts, each with a well-equipped kitchen, bathroom and dining area, purpose-built storage cupboards and an airy design to ensure the guests have ample space for cooking, dining and relaxing. Both huts are fully fitted out with electrical points, hot water, lighting and heating, including a fireplace. Homemade breakfast baskets and logs are available to purchase prior to your arrival. Langley Castle Hotel. This 14th century castle restored to a magnificent and luxurious hotel, 30 minutes from Newcastle and 40 minutes from Newcastle Airport. This genuine 14th century castle, set in a 12-acre woodland estate, with brush-mown lawns, and 27 guest rooms, all have private facilities, some of which boast window seats set into 7-foot thick walls, sauna, spa bath, and 4-poster beds. Castleview and Castleview Lodge, converted Grade 1 listed buildings within the grounds, offer additional guest rooms. All rooms have satellite TV and stunning views up to the main castle, 80 meters away. The magnificent drawing room, with blazing log fire, traceries and stained glass, together with the oak-paneled cocktail bar, complement the intimate nature of the Josephine restaurant. The food served in the restaurant is of the highest order, making the most of fresh locally produced fish and game a speciality. Langley is registered to hold civil ceremonies and has established itself as one of the country's foremost venues for hosting civil weddings. Langley is perfect for discovering the delights of Bamburgh Castle, Holy Island, the Scottish borders and the Metro Centre. The exclusive nature of the castle makes Langley the perfect destination to be pampered in unique surroundings. Bamburgh in Northumberland. Bamburgh is a very popular seaside village, dominated by the imposing bulk of Bamburgh Castle, which is a medieval castle, much remodeled during the 17th and 19th centuries. The castle looks out over a broad sandy beach, which sweeps around the coast to the dramatic ruins of Dunstanburgh Castle. Who owns Blanchland? The Lord Crewe's charity. The village of Blanchland is centered on the original monastic buildings of the Abbey and was developed by Lord Crewe's trustees into a model village. The village remains in the ownership of the Lord Crewe's charity, including a mixture of residential accommodation and businesses, as well as agricultural and other uses. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you will come back again, as more videos will be uploaded soon. And thank you for your interest.